Welcome back to Rotten Rust Garage. I finally got my timing chain set in. Middle of this past week, and big plans to do it today, and then I went and spent the better half of this day doing other things with my son, which is bueno. Glad to do that. We went out to the junkyard and pulled some parts for his old truck and carried a door out of there. That's always fun. And of course it was at the very back of the junkyard. We had to carry it all the way to the front. Full glass, everything. So that was fun. But now I got to get started on this, and the only way I can do that is to get started. So let's go. All right, well, good news. I have in fact confirmed that I have the right stuff now. Pretty obvious. It should have jumped out at me. If you saw the other video with the timing chain issues, it should have jumped out at me initially that I was missing the button. That one was keyed, but what really jumped out to me was how much smaller it was. So we got the right stuff here, and all it is really, I've wiped them down, get it set on there right, and then get the chain out. It's soaking. Need to drain it a little bit. Started soaking it last night. Slide it around here and slide all this together and move on. Oh boy, I should have drained this chain. She's gonna be sloppy. Yep. Let's go ahead and do it this way. Let it drain for a few minutes. Yeah. Old 50 weight on there. Alright. Be back in a few. Let this drip and drain. Alright. Got my dots lined up. I gotta make sure, because this is an adjustable crank sprocket, so it should go on like that. Let's see if this will do it. Ooh, doggy. Gotta go back a little more. That chain is tight. Looks like it's gonna line up though. Well, there we go. Boy, that does not. All right, I'm off a little bit. There we go. That's better. It is right there. But it just won't slip on to the cam. Oh boy, I can't see where my dots are in this light. That should be it. There she goes. Okay. Not fully seated though. Now it is. There she goes. A little harder than I thought to get that lined up. So there's my 0 and my 0. It's That's about as good as they're gonna line up, I think. And then once the balancer goes back on, we'll be able to see that if it's still lined up with 0, and obviously that's close to top dead center as I can get it. But these are not perfectly aligned. They are, the engine's at an angle. Let me do this. Get my scale. No, they are definitely not perfectly aligned, but I don't know that I didn't twist something. So it's all good. We'll go from here. Now let me go look up the torque spec for this bolt, and I'll be back. 35 foot-pounds. There we go. Tight. Now I think what happened is at some point I bumped this when I was probably taking off the other timing chain set, maybe when I was taking off the bolt, I don't know, but the other timing chain set lined up perfectly. This is slightly off, like it needs to be spun slightly counterclockwise. But that's not a function of the teeth in the chain. that misalignment because it has to go onto the Woodruff key here, and it has to go into that spot on the cam, and I was very careful not to move the cam at all. So I think it is what it is. I kind of got what I got here. Time to make a mess with some RTV. Just gonna do a thin coat and then get this on this cover and let it start setting up. Oh hey, I'm not using my microphone today. Maybe I should get that out. Stick this Bad Jackson to the cover. Let's see if these holes will all stay lined up while it starts to tack up and dry. Seems to be doing the thing. Stand mostly in place. All right, let this dry for a few. All right, time to put the cover on. And it's got 2 dowel pins there. And I got my bolts here ready to go. Get those dowels lined up, get it stuck to it. And if you remember, the big, what are these, 9/16 bolts go down at the bottom 4 holes. I'm just going to get these fingered on there. I'm not going to tighten them down yet because I want to put the damper on first. Let that make sure that it finds its happy center. Also, I've oiled this seal in here. That way it's not dry running on that damper once it goes in. Oh, and if you didn't notice before I put this on, I also got the oil slinger on there that was missing. Why don't you want to go? Just a little tight. Get that one later. You might have noticed that this timing cover is orange. You guessed it. This engine's going to be orange. It's going to probably add 150 horsepower just because it's orange. I just didn't want to do it in blue. It's a pretender anyway, so good times. Let me get a ratchet. Again, not going to tighten these. I'm just going to get them close. Not even really snug, just basically finger tight, so there will be some movement in the pan. Tiniest bit. Doesn't have much because it's on these dowel pins, but you know, give the damper its best shot at centering up in there. Okay, this has been prepped. It's oiled where the seal is gonna ride, and the seal itself is oiled. Now I'm just gonna try and line up this key way somewhere right around there. I think that's it. Yep, let me go get a mallet and get this thing drove on there. Slow going. Yep, and there's that tiny misalignment, and the 2 dots is right here showing up because that's no longer at 0. I think it's because the amount of slop in the old chain. When I had this set to 0, well, it should still be, I don't know. It'll be just fine though. As soon as this goes counterclockwise back to the 0 mark on the timing cover here, those 2 are gonna spin together and they'll line up perfectly, I assure you. Okay, that's not on there all the way yet, but let me find my big old bolt. See if I can get this. Nope, I'm gonna have to drive it on further. Boy, she really gonna take some whaling. Does not want to go on there. Slowly but surely, if I can get this started, I'll be able to draw it on. I only got like one thread. A little more whaling. Whaling Jennings. It's going. Hey, there we go. All right, now I can draw it on the rest of the way. £135. Oh, this engine stand wants to move. There it goes. Just wedged a clean block of wood in here to catch that crank lobe so that it would not just rotate the engine when tightening that. All right, a little bit of cleanup to do. Now it's time to get the oil pan surface area all free of debris and oil on it. And a little bit of the old gasket. All right, let me get this cleaned up. And while I'm here, just makes sense to, you know what, let me tighten this cover down. And then we'll trim off this little bit of excess gasket that's sticking through. So, I don't know what these go to, but they go to some torque value. How about just evenly on there? I'll look up what this is, but it's probably like, I don't know, 25 or 30 foot-pounds or something silly. Seems reasonable to me. Yeah, that's sticking out there, so we need to trim this off. And just like that. Too easy, drill sergeant. Well, even this one could use a little. Even easier. All right, let me get this little bit of RTV off from the previous gasket. And I gotta be very careful about not dropping trash down in here. A little lacquer thinner here, and I just checked, and these are supposed to go to 15 foot-pounds, so nailed it. They are 100% accurate. A little lacquer thinner, get the oil that's laying on here. I need to get my lint-free towels though, instead of paper towels. All right, time to seal this joker up and seal it up good. Don't want a leaker. So a little bit of RTV all along the block here where the gasket's gonna go. It's not gonna be a ton, and it'll make it painful when this all comes back apart because everything will be stuck together, but it won't leak. A little bit extra right here at that seam. Same here. We'll do the same back at the rear main area. Could just go straight gasket, but that's always a risk that it ends up leaking. All right, now smear it in. Get it nice and smooth and even and thin. I don't want a ton of this stuff gooping out everywhere. And I've already fit these gaskets on there once, and they're not a great fit. They don't want to line with the bolt holes at the end, and if you stretch it to get to align with these holes at the end, the sides squeeze in and then those go misaligned. So it ought to be a dance. Luckily, I got to put a windage tray in here to make it even more fun. Oh yeah, that rough machine surface at the base of the timing chain cover is that's a probable leak without some RTV. I think we're there. All right, throw this gasket on. Got to match the gasket to where the dipstick tube comes through. There's a notch right there. Yeah, pulling it to line these up. The other ones go out of alignment. It is what it is. These two up here, they're going to be my challenge. Try and split the difference. It's half covering every hole, except for right in the center. Now the windage tray's got to go on. So let me get another little coat on this. Back in a minute. Making a sandwich. Man, these things don't line up worth a dang. All right, next gasket. All right, add this piece to the pie, to the sandwich. Jeez, this one lines up even worse. It is going to be fun fishing these bolts through here. That's for daggone show. I don't know what this material is. I guess it's like a rubber. I don't know. Definitely wants to retain its squinched up shape. Man, that's thick. That is a thick sandwich. It's a dagwood. But hopefully those bolts will fish through there. Now for the pan, grease that up and then drop it on to the gasket. Line it up. Oh yeah, it just drops right on. And we'll start running bolts in. A lot of bolts. 20 some odd. Let's see if these things are gonna make it in. These went through the parts cleaner. There we go. See if I can get some of these to start threading. Got a lot of gasket and stuff to work through. There's one. Time for a break. What's interesting is these also had, looks like the factory put some sort of Loctite of whatever on these. You could still see it on some of them. Even after it went through the parts cleaner, whatever it is, dry. Let's see if I can find one that, yeah, you can see the edge, see on the threading there that it's got Loctite of some sort, yellow. Yeah, it's getting, some of these are getting really a little challenging. This side over here, let me get a tool. Oh boy, yeah, that gasket is slipped over. As long as the bolt can shove through. Yep, that one did. All right, whole lot of this. I'll come back when they're together. All right, that's pretty good. These are just snugged. I've always been told to just snug them up a little, not all the way, don't send them, and let the RTV dry for like an hour or two, and then you go back with final torque once the RTV is done. These are 15 foot-pounds. I don't even know that my little driver goes to 15 foot-pounds. It might be a little too low for that. Probably need to get like a smaller one. We'll see. Then I'll Scotch-Brite this so that it can be painted. That'll be easy while it's up like this. Sorry for future me taking this off of here with all of that RTV on there. It's gonna suck trying to pry it all off there without bending that windage tray, but yeah, we'll get her done. There's your 15 pounds of torque, and it's a lot for the dual gaskets on here. A lot to squish down. So the RTV is all cured, but it seems like you go around it once and get every one of them to click off at 15 foot-pounds, then you go back where you started and it takes more. So yep, see, there you go. Every time you go around it, gives you a little bit more on each one. I'm only going to go so far because I can already see it starting to bend this pan in a little bit. Not much, but a little bit, just because the amount of squish in those gaskets. Okay, I think we're pretty much there with the torque now. Yep. Yeah, they're all clicking right off now. Okay, good. Now, even though it's going to run me out of here for a few, while I've got it upside down, I'm going to hit it along this rail where I won't be able to get as easily with the engine flipped back over. And some of these hard to see spots from doing it underneath, this is a great time to catch a couple of those. Not many, but right here by the oil pump is for sure one of them, but certainly along this rail where all these rusty bolts are. So let me wipe this down again real quick with some lacquer thinner, and then we'll hit it with a quick shot of paint. I did semi-degrease all this oil pump area, brake clean, wire brush. The paint's only going to stick for so long. But as I said, this engine's not going to live in this car maybe a few years. If I can get a couple years out of the paint, it'll look good. And that's kind of the point of it. Also, it just looks terrible with all the rust all over it. So go ahead and shoot some fast orange paint on it. Get all the horsepower I can out of that can. And call it good. I think the orange will look good in a black car. It'll be a pretender though, and we know that. No big deal. All right, let's shoot a little bit of paint on it. All right, let's leave it at that. Let it tack up a little bit, and then I'll hit it another lick. All right. It's not good. Not good. All right, so now I'm going to go with my thread chaser. It just cleans the threads. It's not a tap. It's flat bottom. And I'm going to go through every one of these head bolt threaded points and make sure that they're clean, because you know all the cleaning I did up on this engine for the carbon. I want to make sure there's no chunks or grossness or anything, and it should not require a tool to thread this in or out. So there's a little bit of trash on there, as you can see. So just clean it off with some brake clean and a little brass crystal wire brush if needed. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely pulling some trash out of there. And I'm going to do that now for, yeah, what do we got? 17 of these things, I think, on each side. So that's what I'm going to do for the next half hour or so. And we'll catch up with you on the back side of that. Okay. In a rare bit of adulting, I actually read the instructions with these Mr. Gasket shim style head gaskets. And it says, blah, 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 among other things, do not use any type of glue or sealant on this head gasket. I was going to use the copper spray on them. Looks like that was what was on the factory one. But it says the special coating used on the gaskets are all that is needed to seal all fluid passages, yada, yada, yada. This gasket's fairly identical to the factory one. I took a caliper to it. It's slightly thinner, which can only help compression. And the other thing is these water jacket passages are a little bigger on this one. Other than that, identical. So I've gone through, cleaned all the holes, the bolt holes out. I got my first bolt sitting here with some thread lubricant on it, using this stuff. And the rest are laid out here. I did my final wipe down of the gasket surface underneath of here. Made sure there was no debris anywhere. And I've just done the same thing to this one. And it's really helpful to take a flashlight and shine it down it, because you can then see all the little hairs that might have stuck to it. Fibers from wiping it down with a towel. They are everywhere. I don't want anything in the between this gasket and this head. So shining it down the lengthways, you can really see the stuff. And it's been bagged, but I could probably use a little more time on this one, getting a little bit more of this. It's just tiny, tiny stuff. Luckily, it wants to stick to my fingers better than the head. All right, this is my last chance to take a good look at all this. So here we go. Also, I'm going to probably throw my back out lifting this thing. Well, continue throwing my back out. I did the other weekend with a shovel and ice in the driveway. You know the drill. All right, so got to spin it around, drop it on, get it on these pins without dropping it, and then run that first bolt in. So let's see how this is going to go. Lift with your back. Yeah, I think that's where the pins go. Nope. Yep. And get my first bolt going. You know what I didn't do is grab the socket that fits it. That was dumb. I'll just stand here and finger it in. Also with that, the thread lubricant, get underneath of the bolt head itself so that it's slipping on the mating surface when you're torquing it. All right, it ain't coming off of there, I don't think, but I do need to grab a bigger socket. What size are these? I think these are 9. What is that, 5/8? Yep. I'll keep my hand on this and reach this. It ain't going anywhere, but I'm paranoid. A lot of trash came out when I did the threads on the cleaning out the threads with the thread chaser. That's a good thing. And then I've shot a little bit of air in there. Did a final cleaning on everything. I will say one thing, the way they package these gaskets, it is like vacuumed and glued onto there. You can see where it ripped off the paper. This is where the instructions were. But man, I had to sit there and triple, quadruple check that gasket, because little bits of that plastic shredded off and were still stuck to the gasket surface. So I went over it like 5 times to make sure I got all those little bits off. That would screw things up royally. All right, looking pretty good. Now it's just a matter of, oh, by the way, all the long bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them in the center, then all the short bolts on the outer edges. Some out here on the exhaust side, outside of the head, and then there's 4 in the center there. So I'm just gonna go through and lubricate all these with my stuff and get it started. One other thing is that like the book call out for installing this head is, I think it's run it to, what is it, like, I'll have to check, 30 foot-pounds on each bolt, and then come back, or maybe it's 50, and then come back and do it at 70 as the final torque in sequence, right? You know, kind of working center out. The head gasket instructions say you need to do 3 different torque sequences. So I'm gonna compromise there. I'll do the 3 that the head gasket manufacturer calls for. And what I'll do is, instead of going straight to the 50 from the book, I'll go to like, say, 30, right? It's just gonna add an extra step. It won't hurt anything, and it's probably gonna do nothing. So that's how I'm gonna do it. All right, so here we are. I'm gonna start the first sequence at 30. I started with this one right here. All right, that one's already torqued down to 30 foot-pounds. Now this one. Now this one. Not ideal to use an extension, but that's what I got. Now let me check my chart. 3, 2, so come back out to this one, 4. And then back up here, 5. Then out here to this one for 6. 7 to the middle. And then 8 down here. And 9 here. 10 down here. 11 up here. And what, 12 down here? That makes sense to me. Just working inside to out. 12 and 13. And then 14. 15 right here in the center row. 16 down here. And then 17 here, this last one. All right, that's 30 foot-pounds. Now I got to go to 50, and I'll just repeat, then 70, then repeat, and she'll be bolted on. And that's that. Then we'll do the other one. Good times. Houston, we have a problem. I am such an idiot. So I was chasing these threads just now, because I did the other side. I planned on doing this right before putting the head on. And I was doing the very last one with the thread chaser. And as I was pulling it out, it fumbled out of my hand, went right through the lifter hole, and dropped straight down and hit the bottom of the oil pan. It is in the oil pan right now. Holy crap, I'm such an idiot. I should have had a towel over this lifter valley. But I didn't, because I'm an idiot. Now, I'm going to ruin those 2 gaskets that I glued on there with a bunch of RTV to get that damn thing out of there. I already took the oil plug out. It's not big enough. It's a tiny hole for that thing. That thing's got a 5/8 size. Oh my God. That is going to put me behind. Now I got to order 2 more gaskets. No way those are going to be saved. And I got to go through and clean all those surfaces again. This is starting to get a little painful because I'm an idiot. I could have prevented all that by just laying a rag across this lifter valley, which is what I should have been doing the whole time. I don't know why. That damn thing just popped right out of my hand. She gone. 'Cause Man, that ruined my day. I guess that's going to be the end of this video, folks, because I got to take this thing back off, redo all of that work, which is, it's not hard, it's just tedious with cleaning everything again, buying 2 new gaskets, and they're not cheap at all. I don't remember how much they were, but I'm pretty sure they were like $20 something each, and they're gonna get ruined, and you know that. And man, and it's my fault. It is nothing but purely my fault. So advice to you, when you're working on the top side here, even though there's no lifters in here, just lay a rag in there to keep maybe any dirt or anything, or especially a socket, a boulder, or anything from falling down into that lifter valley. Wow. That's embarrassing to share with you all, but I have to, because now you need to know why it's going to take me an extra 2 weeks to get this crap done. Now I got to order that stuff, wait for the slow boat from China, and then get after it again. Crap. All right, well, I'm just going to get it on its side here like this so that I don't want the damn thing to fall on further up in there. It's somewhere right down here right now, so I'm going to, off camera, because there'll be some cussing, I'm going to redo all this now and get that stupid thing out of there. All right, laugh. Grab yourself an adult beverage and laugh at me. I'm cutting off the camera for now, and here we go. I'm such a bonehead. Well, it didn't hit the oil pan. In fact, it hit the windage tray. And you can see where I peeled at it all. And trash is falling down in there. I can get it from this side, but I don't know. I got to clean I think the windage tray is still good on there, but I don't think I trust it because any of this crap could have gotten inside of there. What a freaking mess. So, all right, well, at least now I can get my magnet and see about getting this stupid thing out of here. Wherever it went. Oh yeah, I gotta take it all off and start over. Where did you go, little buddy? He probably rolled back down the block somewhere. Yay. What a crap show. Why don't I see you in there? Oh, there you are. Hang on a second. Uh-huh. Oh my gosh. There we go. The price I paid for being an idiot. Daggone. I was kind of hoping that I could just clean this gasket off and leave this on there, but I don't think that's a good call because debris. I see some back up there and I just don't trust it. And all that'll get sucked into the screen. Oh yeah. Yep, this is a redo, folks. 100%. 2 new gaskets. Let me go get those ordered. I'll let you know how much my mistake cost me, besides the amount of time extra that it's going to take. Frustration. That's the price for being stupid, though, I guess. Can you tell I don't do this very often? Any rational human being would have had that lifter valley covered just to keep any accident like what just happened from happening. Oh, boy. Nothing like doing something twice. Alright, well, it is what it is now. Spilled milk. I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon cleaning all this off of here, vacuuming this stuff out. This is my punishment for being dumb. And it is a horrific punishment. This is worse than the, probably, well, maybe not as bad as hell, but it's got to be close second, right? I even questioned, like, man, maybe I shouldn't RTV all this stuff, you know? But I did it, figuring that's a future Kevin problem, and I was right. Just didn't know the future was coming so quickly. Snuck right up on me. smacked me in the back of the head. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this episode a lot more than I did, because this is going to be a wrap for this one. You know, this is how you snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Instead of putting on the other head and going on with the lifters and all that, you know, push rods, getting all that stuff set up and in here. Nope. I'm going to clean gaskets for the next 2 hours. Maybe more. Then I'm going to sit down at the little computer machine and order some more. Alright. Well, again, hope you enjoyed it. If you like laughing at me, good. I like that too. Learn from my mistakes. But anyway, hey, have a great weekend. And please like and subscribe. And tell a buddy, you know, and then go out and get yourself a project car and start having fun like this. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.